Okay. I don't know how to start this. This is my second try at doing this. I'm just gonna do a quick introduction. My name is Dash, or if you can pronounce it, Daksh Kalra. I'm 19 years old and I live in Australia. And for the last 2 years, I have been incredibly focused on my own self improvement, looking inward and progressively becoming more and more deep thinking. I basically wanted to make this video after a revelation. A revelation. I think this is the right word. Hold on. Revelation. Yeah. Revelation. About ego. So for the last year and a half, I've been made aware of the concept of mastery, which, if you don't know, in my perception of it, is basically a deep, almost spiritual connection to a certain aspect of life. This connection often leads to, in the most famous cases, an illustrious career. Take the example of Leonardo da Vinci, Benjamin Franklin, Charles Darwin, that sort of stuff. Mastery, in a practical sense, can be a really advanced knowledge of a particular subject that again leads you to a great career. That's in a practical sense, but definitely it is 100% on. It relates to a more spiritual aspect of thinking. I basically last night was doing a lot of research on ego. It's a concept that I have been focused on. I've been focused on my own ego, analyzing that, being more and more aware of my conditionings, my programmings. The ego, after my research, is essentially a construct that it makes itself. It makes it with your experiences. It uses your experiences. It uses your thoughts, your choices, your basically behavior, to make a sense of identity, and that becomes who you think you are. Whereas in reality, or what I realized last night, is it's just not who you are. I sort of made a theory of how ego gets formed, and it's through your childhood. You're getting so many different opinions from not just your parents, even though they are main contributors to this. Your parents, friends, teachers, other mentors, coaches, stuff like that. But then there is something else that is being formed as well, and that is your authentic self. That is the person you actually are underneath all this, and it's that small voice you hear that gives you conflict when you're making a choice that doesn't really align with you. Like, I had the inclination recently. I do have anxiety sometimes. Not anxiety, like, nervousness when dealing with new people. And my mind sort of came up with the idea that, instead of framing that I am nervous to deal with them, why not make it that they are nervous to deal with me? And initially, this provided some comfort, and I thought of implementing that into my life. But I did feel a nagging sort of like sense of conflict, like that doesn't really feel right. That voice is your authentic self speaking. It is essentially the thing that has made your values, you know, you, your values, your principles that you live by, that the ego basically steals from, and to make a more, let's say, comfortable sense of self. The authentic self is essentially something that you should actively try to live by. Every time you get a sort of nagging sense of conflict on a choice that you have made or are about to make or are currently making, you should really try to be a bit more conscious about what you think is the morally right choice. I am making this video and I'm posting it on YouTube in the not in the hopes, with the aim. I think that's the same thing, but whatever. I'm doing it with the intention of not getting views. That's not my intention here. It's to show my ego that I can step out of the comfort zone, which is something that the ego makes as well. Funnily enough, the ego sets a boundary that you can't really go past because it's outside of your sense of self. Going outside of that comfort zone, it is against your superficial morals. It's against that identity that becomes made and that you get used to. I was basically just thinking about that last night, that, putting myself out there to the world, it's a very scary thing. It's a very uncomfortable thing. There's a lot of chance for ridicule, not ridicule, judgment is a better word, probably not ridicule, maybe ridicule, I don't know. And I thought that because the ego is trying so hard to not make me do this, I should do it. So here I am recording myself. I am basically, I literally came up with the title of this video at that moment as well, because I realized to myself that it's an illusion. Ego is an illusion, and the feeling of reluctance, the feeling of contradiction that I'm feeling right now to making a YouTube video is also an illusion. I started laughing at this point. I started like really just feeling a bit liberated at this point, that damn, that was quite eye-opening. So that's my sort of theory, philosophy on ego. I also want to touch upon mastery itself. I have been more and more interested in the concept of mastery itself, and not just that. The person who wrote Mastery was Robert Greene, and his other books, you might know, The 48 Laws of Power. I read that like a little bit, like maybe like 2 years ago, but in general his books are they're about human behavior, social dynamics, and I've really sort of like been interested in that lately. I think my journey of mastery, it's been like it's been like not all over the place, but it's been random, some might say, but I feel like there is a sense of connection to each of the things that I've focused upon. I basically, just quickly going through my journey of, I guess, mastery, the book essentially instructs you to first look to your past, especially your childhood, when you were in theory a person who wasn't really affected by what other people thought of you, and therefore if other opinions didn't affect you, then you would be able to really know what you liked and what you didn't like. So I did that, and if anyone knows me from my past, then they would definitely say that yes, Daksh was the dinosaur kid. He was. I really was. I loved them. I wanted to study on everything about dinosaurs, and that's basically where I started a year and a half ago. With dinosaurs, I started studying them again, and trying to imitate or feel that sense of childlike wonder that I would feel when I was like 10 years old. From dinosaurs, I went into looking into a practical approach of how I can express this more, like career-wise. I looked into paleontology, which is the study of digging up dinosaur bones. It didn't really attract me, and through dinosaurs, I sort of landed upon evolution. I looked at evolutionary biology, which didn't really appeal to me either. Evolutionary psychology came up, which sort of spoke to me a bit more. However, it did feel a bit constricting with its limiting beliefs. I then looked at comparative psychology, which is a bit more open-ended. In general, I was seeing a pattern that my mastery has got to do with a sense of evolution, and if it's from a psychological perspective, that's also really good. Currently, I am quite into human behavior. So funnily enough, the very things I was reading in Mastery in the first place were the things that I was interested in the most. And I have been doing a lot of studying on my own about psychology, about sociology, and now philosophy. So it's sort of been getting more and more grand, I guess. It's been getting more pronounced that human behavior seems to really speak to me. That's not to say that I'm gonna forget about the other interests, or I'm gonna just focus upon a career in sociology now. No, I've sort of reframed my concept of mastery, where the thing that I'm studying isn't gonna be the main focus of my career. It's gonna be what I'm studying. I'm studying this to learn it because I'm interested in it. It's as simple as that. And yeah, I just need to keep that in mind. Look, this is not going to be a long video. I've just given a recap of how I've sort of progressed in my journey of self-development. I've become a lot more aware. My level of thinking, my way of thinking is quite different. I found that I like to deal with things a lot more inquisitively. Like, I like asking a lot more questions to get to the answers, which is something I realized I recently learned that Socrates did. And it seemed to work for him, so why can't it work for me? But I was already doing it beforehand, and I found that it's a really good method for anyone who's trying to learn a concept. But then again, ego is tied into all of this. You have to consciously make a decision at any given point, really. You know, just looking at your thoughts. Is this really who I think I am, or is this who I think I am, if that makes sense? Do you know what I mean? It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of awareness to get to this point. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here. I'm really not. It's not an egoistic trying to think. Egoistic kind of thing I'm trying to say. I just have done a lot of thinking for the last 2 years. You know, really just, it's been almost like, a lot of people would see it as boring. You know, I just have spent a lot of time in just a room with just my thoughts, and it's really provided a lot of, well, initially very boring times. I would almost put myself through that on purpose, but I'm starting to reap the rewards as of late, where my way of thinking, again, I'll say it again, my way of thinking is, I'm genuinely grateful for what I have done. It's provided a lot more clarity with how I judge my own character. And last night obviously was, I'll say it again, a revelation. I have the definition here, and that does seem to make sense. Anyone who wants additional tips on mastery or ego, I guess I'm still in the process of my own journey, but I guess we all are. You know, you're on a journey until you die, right? So I don't know if I will intend on making a video in the future. I might. In fact, I think I will, if it shows to the ego that it's not in control. It's not the aim of this video to get views. The aim of this video is to show myself I can do this, to show my ego that it's not in control. But if in the future, if anyone decides to comment on this video with a suggestion for a video idea or anything, I might take that into consideration. But I think I can definitely talk more about mastery itself. I can definitely go into more depth with my own journey, and hopefully, because I want to help people with this video. If, like, what I'm trying to say is, it's great if I can help people. It's fine if no one watches this, but it's great if someone watches this and finds it to be helpful. So I can definitely sort of give a more detailed inspection of my own journey for mastery, if that helps individuals in the future. I'm sort of speaking two different things, but I'm happy. I didn't think I was going to be able to do this. It's not even a 15-minute video so far, and it just goes to show that the ego is scared about, like, nothing, because it's an illusion. You know, it's just putting fear into something that doesn't really matter. You know, even the act of recording this video, it's like, it's not comfortable here, because it's outside of the comfort zone. Anyways, I have talked. I have reflected. I have grown. I'm grateful for that. And I think I might in the future make another video to show myself that I can do this, to show because it really is connecting with the authentic self here. I like the fact that I'm able to do this for my authentic self, to get closer with my authentic self. So yeah, thank you for listening, and if there's no one here, well done, Daksh.